There's this clip of Jace Turner on stage, backlit, beaming microphone in hand, the crowd chanting his name like a mantra. He takes a dramatic pause, looks straight into the camera, and says every artist has a muse. Mine walked into my life when I was 17. The crowd erupts. Fans swoon. Olivia Tate smiles in the front row like she rehearsed that moment. Here's what no one knows. At 17, Jace was flunking community college and stealing internet from the diner across the street. And Olivia, she wasn't even in the country. I was the one who walked in, through his door, into his basement, into the mess of his life, and stayed. For 7 years, I held his hand while he built his stage, wrote verses between laundry loads, booked gigs in back alley clubs, pitched his songs to agents who didn't remember his name until one of them finally did. I wasn't just his girlfriend. I was the technician, the ghostwriter, the fixer, until I wasn't. The fall from center frame doesn't feel like a crash. It feels like fading, slow, quiet. First, he stopped tagging me. Then he started posting pictures where I was cropped out. At first, I made excuses. He was rebranding. Labels wanted a clean narrative. Olivia photographed better. Then he moved in with her, without telling me. Transferred the lease we shared for 4 years into her name. Like I was a roommate he forgot to notify. That week, I got a message from a fan account. Don't be bitter, Maddie. Olivia's the real thing. You were just part of his struggle era. That one hit harder than the rest, because it was true. Not in the way they meant it, but in the way that counted. Jace used me to survive, and when he no longer needed to survive, he no longer needed me. But here's what he forgot. I didn't survive him. He survived me. And now, I don't struggle. I strategize. The first time I saw Olivia Tate in person, she was barefoot on my kitchen counter, holding my coffee mug, wearing his hoodie. It was a Tuesday. I had taken an earlier flight home from LA. A sync deal had fallen through, and I was already emotionally threadbare when I walked into that apartment, our apartment, and found her there. She didn't flinch, didn't apologize, just gave me a once-over and said, "You must be Maddie." Not Madeline, not even his girlfriend. Maddie. Like I was a fan with bad timing. Jace walked in 10 minutes later, saw me, paused, and said the one thing that told me everything. "You weren't supposed to be here." I didn't cry, not then. Not even when he explained how things had changed, how he needed to focus, how Olivia was better for the image, how it was just business. Funny thing, though, he never said sorry. Not once. That night, I packed a suitcase. Just the essentials. The rest I left. The music, he could keep the demos. I had the copyrights. He just didn't know it yet. The apartment, it was under my name. His little lease transfer was void. And Olivia, well, she'd learned soon enough that spotlights have heat and mirrors. I stayed with Chloe the first few nights. Then I called Logan Pierce. Logan had once been Jace's bodyguard. Now he was mine. Not officially. But you'd be surprised how fast loyalty shifts when a man watches your ex lie straight through a security briefing. Logan picked up on the first ring. "Tell me what you need," he said. I told him. I needed to disappear and come back as someone unrecognizable. Disappearing isn't as hard as people think. All you need is money, a burner phone, and 0 emotional attachments. I had all 3. Logan booked me a suite in a private executive residence, no front desk, no paper trail. Just a black key card and a stocked fridge. While the internet debated whether I ever existed, I sat in silence and built an empire. The first move was legal. I contacted a quiet little law firm in Chicago, one my mother used when she didn't want headlines. They confirmed what I already knew. Every chorus I wrote, every melody, every time Jace begged me to tweak the second verse, I owned it. He hadn't changed the titles. He hadn't bought me out. He hadn't even noticed I'd copyrighted the demos under my name. Because like every man who thinks he's brilliant, Jace assumed I was just helping. The second move was financial. I sold one of the older tracks, the one Jace thought was too raw for streaming to an indie film studio. The licensing check hit my account in 4 days. Then another sync deal, then another. Suddenly, I wasn't just writing, I was profiting. Quietly, legally, strategically. Meanwhile, Jace's name was everywhere. He was touring, smiling, proposing to Olivia on Instagram Live. Chapter 2, he called it, my real beginning. Everyone ate it up. especially the part where he said Olivia believed in me when no one else did. I watched that clip from my suite, wrote the quote on a Post-it, then pinned it beside a folder labeled Turner Assets, Target Locked. The third move, I went to visit my mother. Elaine Chase wasn't the warmest woman, but she was the most dangerous person I knew in a boardroom. She took one look at me and said, "So, you're done being a muse." "I'm ready to be a mirror," I replied. She poured me a drink. "Then let's begin." My mother didn't ask for a PowerPoint. She asked for numbers. Publishing percentages, label debt, tour insurance, merch rights she listed, swirling her drink like it was a weapon. I handed her a slim file. Nothing digital, just ink paper and enough liability to make any manager sweat. She flipped through each page, nodding slightly. "You don't want his money," she said. "It wasn't a question." "I want his illusion," I replied. "I want to own the version of him he's trying to sell." She smirked. "That darling is a strategy I can fund." We started by acquiring shares in the indie label Jace had signed with before he went mainstream. They were still on his back-end distribution rights. One phone call, 2 contracts, and $300K later, I owned 17% of the label. Enough to access his catalog data. Enough to delay his re-releases. Enough to block his unreleased EP from hitting Spotify the week he planned to tour. He didn't know it was me. Not yet. Then came the interviews. A few anonymous tip-offs, some gentle nudging toward writers who hated being fed PR copy. Suddenly, op-eds began to shift. Was Jace Turner's breakout single really his The Shadow Songwriter theory revisited? Who was the voice behind Echoes, and why won't she speak? I didn't speak. Not yet. But I left the door open, and silence, when intentional, is louder than a headline. Meanwhile, Logan kept tabs on everything. He'd once guarded Jace's physical security. Now he guarded my narrative. When Olivia posted a video of her crying backstage because a show was postponed, Logan forwarded me the raw version, unedited. It wasn't tears. It was rehearsal. She'd practiced the breakdown. I watched it twice, then added the footage to a new folder, Facade, Supporting Material. And through all of it, I never texted Jace, not once. Because revenge isn't rage, it's control. The week Jace's new EP was supposed to drop, Spotify removed the pre-save link. No explanation. Just gone. He went live that night, sweaty, frantic, saying there'd been a technical delay and the project was still coming soon. I watched the live stream from my living room, glass of wine in hand. He looked tired. Not physically. Strategically. By the end of the stream, Olivia entered frame. She leaned into his shoulder, whispering something. Probably damage control. He smiled at the camera, the kind of smile that stretched too thin to be real. I muted the volume. I didn't need to hear the lies again. I'd already transcribed them the first time. That same night, I finalized the deal with an LA-based podcast network. Title credits redacted. It wasn't about revenge, it was about revision. Each episode would unpack a different story in the music industry. Ghostwriters, image contracts, PR relationships, and all the things no one wants fans to know. And no, I wouldn't be named. But I'd be the one curating the stories, producing the message, controlling the narrative. 2 days later, Jace's PR firm dropped him. Quietly, of course. No press release, no tweets. Just a change in bios, a shift in tone, a silence where once there was spin. And Olivia. She was invited to perform at a charity gala without Jace. Funny how quickly the industry distances itself from liability. Logan met me on the rooftop that night. Same spot where Jace and I used to talk about someday. "Your move?" he asked. "Already made," I replied. He handed me a folder. Inside screenshots, Olivia had messaged a reporter, offering clarification on the timeline of their relationship, trying to spin the narrative, paint herself as the victim who didn't know Jace was still with me when they got together. I laughed. Not out of anger, out of awe. The desperation was setting in, and the cracks were finally starting to show. They always say the real damage happens when the quiet one finally decides to speak. I didn't post a selfie. I didn't drop a statement. I didn't tag anyone. I released a song under a pseudonym. It was uploaded to a low-key SoundCloud account with no bio, no links, just one single track titled Ghostwriter. No name, no face. Just truth. Within 48 hours, the song was viral. Thousands of comments flooded in. Wait, is this about Jace Turner? These lyrics hit harder than his last 3 albums combined. Whoever wrote this isn't just telling a story. She's calling someone out, and it's working. Bloggers speculated. Reddit threads exploded. Reaction videos popped up across YouTube. And I said nothing. I let the work speak. And for the first time, the silence wasn't my prison. It was my power. Jace didn't respond immediately. He waited like he always did, thinking it would blow over. It didn't. 3 days later, he posted a video, black and white filter, piano in the background. I've made mistakes, he said. I've hurt people, but I've grown. Please allow me the space to move forward. It was the kind of apology that didn't name names, didn't take responsibility, and didn't change anything. And the internet knew it. Under the video, this is about Madeline, isn't it? Why didn't you ever credit her then? You're sorry, because you got caught. The day after that, Credits Redacted dropped episode 1. Not about Jace. About an unnamed award-winning artist who built his brand on borrowed lyrics. It trended in under 6 hours. Jace's name wasn't in the script, but he didn't have to be. By the time episode 2 aired, his team had issued a legal threat. We replied with timestamps, metadata, and a very polite message. We recommend Mr. Turner review the original songwriting documents filed under Chase IP Holdings. He didn't threaten again. Logan met me on the balcony that night. He didn't bring wine, just a USB drive. This is from his manager, he said. They want to meet. Why? To negotiate silence. I smiled. They still think I want revenge. You don't. I turned back toward the skyline. The city gleamed like a contract waiting to be signed. No, I said, I want the truth to cost them what it cost me everything. The conference room was colder than I remembered. Modern, minimalist. All white walls and glass partitions like shame had nowhere to hide. Jace arrived late. Of course. Olivia walked in behind him wearing a blazer too sharp and a face too soft. The room went still when they saw me. Not the version they'd discarded, but the one they didn't see coming. Logan stood behind me, silent, watchful. On the table was a copy of the contract their team had sent non-disclosure. Ceasefire. Settlements. They wanted to buy silence. Again. Jace cleared his throat. Maddie? It's Madeline, I said. He blinked. Right, sorry. I didn't respond. I didn't come here for an apology. I came to watch them squirm. Olivia leaned forward. Look, this doesn't have to get worse. You've made your point, publicly. She said it like she was being gracious, like this was generosity, not damage control. I stared at her for a long second, then asked, how does it feel to live in a story that isn't yours? She flinched. Jace's lawyer coughed. Miss Chase, we'd like to resolve this amicably. I'm sure you would, I said, opening the folder in front of me. Inside a stack of documented lies. Contractual breach. Backdated credits. Unpaid royalties. Fabricated timeline evidence Olivia fed to the press. All of it time-stamped, labeled, legal. This, I said, tapping the folder is your legacy. Jace looked down. Olivia stayed frozen. I stood. No settlement, no silence. You're bluffing, Olivia whispered. I leaned closer, voice low but clear. Then let's go to court. But know this, I won't just prove you lied. I'll prove you built an entire brand on the back of a woman you tried to erase. Then I walked out. Logan opened the door. The silence behind me said everything. The first headline hit at 7:03 a.m. Former Muse speaks Madeline Chase reclaims the credits they buried. By 9:30, it was trending worldwide. Madeline Chase, ghostwriter, no more, give her credit. People who once called me bitter now called me brave. Funny how fast public opinion pivots when you hand them the truth in clean typography and legal proof. Clips from Credits Redacted resurfaced. Spotify began updating songwriting metadata. Streaming platforms pushed Ghostwriter onto curated playlists under the label Revenge Rewritten. And Jace, his team went silent. Sponsors pulled out. Tour dates were postponed indefinitely. A former bandmate went on TikTok and said, we all knew Maddie wrote 90% of it. And Olivia, she deactivated her Instagram. The perfect feed collapsed like a glass wall hit by real weight. I didn't gloat. I didn't post a statement. I didn't run interviews. I let the world fill in the blanks. because for once they were writing the right story. Not the one Jace crafted, not the one Olivia filtered, but the one I bled for. I spent that evening alone on a balcony overlooking the city. Not hiding, not planning, just breathing. Logan texted me from downstairs. The new site's live. It's got your full credits, your music, your name properly placed. I clicked the link. MadelineChase.com. Nothing flashy, just clean white space and one line. Not a muse, not a memory, the writer. The invitation came in a cream envelope with silver lettering. The New York Songwriters Guild. Annual Gala Black Tie. Press approved. Keynote speaker Madeline Chase. I read it 3 times before setting it down. It wasn't just a seat at the table. It was the microphone. Chloe helped pick the dress. Something sharp enough to cut through applause, she said. We went with navy silk, structured shoulders, no jewelry, just the dress, and my name. The night of the gala, I walked in alone. No publicist, no arm candy, no camera crew. And yet every head turned. People whispered. Some with guilt, some with curiosity, some with regret. I didn't look at any of them. I looked at the podium. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't need notes. I told them about craft, about silence, about how the industry sells voices and forgets to credit the hands that shape them. I told them I wasn't bitter, I was accurate. I wasn't angry, I was awake. I didn't name Jace, didn't need to. The truth didn't require a villain. It only required acknowledgement. Afterward, people lined up to shake my hand. Producers, artists, label heads. Suddenly remembering I existed. I smiled, politely. But I didn't forget who forgot me. Not out of spite, out of clarity. Because survival teaches you one thing. Memory is leverage. Later that night, Logan drove me home. You handled that well, he said. I leaned back in the seat, the city lights reflected in the glass. I didn't handle it, I replied. I rewrote it. I didn't expect to hear from him again. But Jace Turner always did have a flair for timing. The email came on a Thursday. Subject, if you ever want to talk. No apology, no specifics. Just a link to a private video, unlisted, one view. I didn't click it. I didn't need to. Instead, I forwarded the email to Blake, my legal team. Then I deleted it. Not out of pettiness, out of peace. Because closure isn't a conversation. It's deciding the story ends whether they get to finish their scene or not. 2 months later, Credits Redacted won a podcast award. I didn't attend the ceremony. Chloe accepted on my behalf. She texted me a photo of the trophy with the caption, "Looks good next to a wine glass, doesn't it?" I replied, "Everything does when you're not carrying someone else's name." Logan and I moved offices, bigger space, high floors, views of the river and the city I once hid from. We launched a creative rights firm, one designed for people like me, people who built things quietly, people who were told they were just helping, people who deserve their names in the credits from the start. Some nights I still get tagged in old photos. Me Jace cheap microphones, worse lighting. Fans reminiscing, wondering what could have been. And sometimes I wonder too, what if I'd stayed? What if I'd accepted his apology, taken the deal, signed the NDA? Then I remind myself, if I had done that, I'd still be a footnote. Now, I'm the author.